We love Wrestling Weekly. This is Spotlight Down for the Count. You know, three ladies who's taking over the industry talking about wrestling. You can find them all the time. Right now we have Nicole, we have Tiffany, and we have Alexis. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into how they met each other and why they started this. So how are you ladies doing?
I'm good. Can't complain.
That's great. Nicole, Tiffany, Alexis, do you want to tell us about yourselves to start off with?
I'm a Leo. I enjoy long walks on the beach.
We're not doing the dating service.
All right. Just three females who all have different perspectives on pro wrestling, and we all have opinions on it, and we yell into a phone every week and record our show.
How long have y'all been doing it?
It'll be a year in
I don't think it's been that long.
No, it will be. We started in last year around September. It'll be a year this year in September.
Okay, I was about to say, like, you were making it sound like it was like tomorrow. I was like, hold on.
No, it hasn't been that long. We started last year in September. I met these two goons through my Instagram page.
It was August because we talked about SummerSlam.
It was August.
Yeah, it was August. August 21st was our first episode.
You remember the day?
Jeez.
No, I looked it up.
Wait, have y'all met in person?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, not yet. I live in Cleveland, Ohio. Nicole lives a couple hours away from me in Toledo, and Alexis is down in Tennessee. So, and then due to what's the circumstances right now, definitely can't meet. But we were going to. We were supposed to meet. What was it? AEW's show last year.
Yeah, AEW's Cleveland show.
Yeah, we were supposed to meet then, but shit happens. Excuse me. Things happen, so it was outside of our, circumstances. We couldn't do it, but we talk regularly, and I met them. Like I said, I met them through Instagram. I have a wrestling page on Instagram.
What's
where
your wrestling page?
It's at Psych Design TV too, and I do wrestling commentary. I'm just literally watching TV and yelling at the TV screen. So I met them through that. And I would go live every week after each show, and I would talk to them, and Nicole would come in regularly. Alexis came in all the time, and we were in a group chat, and Nicole was like, I want to start a podcast. Who want to be on it with me? And I was like, I'll do it. I don't have anything to do. I'll do it. And Alexis was like, I want to be on it. So we started the podcast, and it's fun. I like having the podcast. I like doing it. I don't like editing it every week.
I'm telling you, I'm learning.
Y'all don't want me to do editing, trust me. Y'all see my TikTok videos. They look fucking horrible. Y'all don't want me to do that podcast now. Come on.
It's fun to do, and I like being able to have an outlet to have that conversation. And I like the fact that honestly there aren't a lot of podcasts like ours, and we go from the serious to the funny and back and forth. So I enjoy doing the podcast. Plus they're like, we've grown to be like really good friends in the end, and I love them. Yeah. They're cool people.
Yay!
Yeah, that's their podcast. I just put up on there, so y'all just go ahead. So let's see. You said you were on Instagram doing videos where you like yelled doing commentary.
Yeah, I still do it. Seriously, I do. I'm Ronda Rousey, hairstylist, saw my videos, and he started showing her the videos, and I got featured on her YouTube channel because of that. And she comments on my page frequently. And I actually got to meet her at Fastlane last year because of the page. And I started getting new people coming to my Instagram because of that. These two, though, I started seeing them come in after the video went up for Ronda Rousey. So they were coming in and out, and Nicole would come in and talk, and I would talk to Alexis, and it just kind of morphed into a good friendship after that.
Because I remember I talked to you before all that, and it was like an hour before Fastlane, and you went live.
Yeah.
I went into the video. She's in her car and she's laughing, carrying on, and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing? It's Fastlane. Get your ass home.
You're missing the show. You're missing the show." I'm like, I will tell you what's going on in a minute. I couldn't say anything because I honestly didn't know if I was allowed to. And
Fastlane in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Fastlane here in Cleveland, and she wanted to meet me, so she got me the tickets. I went down to the Quicken Loans, and I was able to go and see her and meet her husband and meet her whole squad. It was cool.
Terry has endless amounts of items.
What?
Uh-oh. Got a chair.
I can't see it.
Oh, it was a chair from Fastlane.
I was in the building. I got 2 of those chairs. I gave one to my cousin. He's a wrestling fan that can't shows.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, if I can.
You could have got a whole stack of chairs, Tiff.
I was not, in my mind, I was just glad to be there, honestly. I didn't ask for anything. I was just happy to be there. So the memories are enough. I got plenty of pictures. I'm good.
You better than me.
How long have you been a wrestling fan? That's my chair collection back there.
Oh my God.
My wrestling fan pops.
Bullshit. For me specifically, I've been a wrestling fan since I was 8. But I was strictly WWE. That's my first love when it came to wrestling. I didn't get exposed to wrestling outside of that until I met these two. I knew I mean, I just didn't watch it. I knew about TNA. I watched TNA and stuff like that. And I knew about Lucha Underground, but I never sat down and actually watched the shows. So I was more mainstream wrestling, and I got introduced to other stuff through them. And I was just like, I was very straight-laced when it came to wrestling. I was like, I don't see it. I don't care about it. I didn't watch it. And it kind of eased me into other things. And I watch other promotions now. But at first, I was strictly WWE. That's how I started watching it. And that's where I'm still watching it. And that's just how I got introduced to it. My father actually introduced me to wrestling when I was a kid. And I watched it with him and my mother. They don't tend to watch it as much as I do anymore, but that's how I got interested in wrestling.
Alexis?
I got into wrestling 6th grade, junior high. I kind of went more toward the ECW side of things. Like, I like the crazy hardcore shit. I was really big into the Lucha Libre wrestlers that were in WCW, a lot of the Japanese wrestlers that were coming over. Tiff hates that we fucking introduced her to Lucha Underground. But I support all wrestling except backyard wrestling. I think that's the fucking dumbest thing possible you could do. my husband did it when he was younger, and it jacked up his back. So I think he kind of learned his lesson on that one. That was pre-me, so I had nothing to do with that decision that he did. But I just like finding all kinds of wrestling, and like I respect wrestling on a whole. Like New Japan's not my cup of tea, but I support every person who's walked through those doors and willing to put their body on the line to make sure idiots like me are entertained for like 2-3 hours a night.
Okay. Nicole?
Mine is a little bit of a weird one. So, one of my mother's best friends, her husband was a local indie wrestler at the time. Like literally, like when I mean local, like in my hometown of over 1,000 people that lived there. So he invited my mom to a show. So she was like, okay, because she doesn't know any better. She thought it was something. She thought it was going to be like WWF at the time, like I don't know, like some Andre the Giant stuff or whatever. So we go to the show up to the show. Everything was normal at first, and then it turns out it's like a deathmatch tournament.
What's this story?
So she freaks out, and she's like trying to get me to go, but I'm like so into it that she just was like, well, she's like, you don't seem freaked out. You really like this, so we're just gonna sit there. And we sat there the whole freaking show while she was miserable, and I was literally having the time of my life. And I also got a cookie sheet that her husband smacked on someone's head, and I still have that cookie sheet. It's like 20 some years old. I always say I need to find it, but I don't look for it.
I was about to ask you, did you find that yet?
My mom says that she thinks it's in the attic. She said she saw it like a year ago, once like my parents got like resettled and like moved into their new place and shit. So it's up in the attic somewhere, but I'm too scared to go on the ladder, so.
Well, just me, so y'all know me just a little bit since I'm talking to y'all. I've been watching wrestling since the 80s. My first show was the Great American Bash, 1989.
Oh,
My dad and my dad took me. I used to watch with them and my aunts and uncles down in Mississippi. Then I moved here, and I didn't watch wrestling all the time, but I always DVR'd it, so I always knew what was going on when I went to school and everything. And then about maybe 10 years ago, I really got into it. Somebody was like, let's go to Mania. And I was like, yeah, I'm going. Got on the road. I've been to Mania ever since. Now we just run the page, We Love Wrestling. The motto is, if I love wrestling and you love wrestling, then we love wrestling. I just support everything that's with wrestling. I go to a lot of shows that I can get to in the Midwest. So if you're there, you'll see me. Now, here's my big question for you, podcast ladies.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with the name, Down for the Count?
I remember this.
Didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't.
Yeah. We were thinking, we had like a bunch of names, and we were trying to come up with something wrestling related.
Alexis is the one who suggested that one.
Like we were just coming up with like anything, because when you have a podcast, you need something to stand out.
Right.
And I was actually watching Wrestling with Regret because I love Brian Zane. I could just sit there and watch him all day. And while I'm writing down like all these weird ass dumbass names, he goes, he was doing some classic pay-per-view show, and it's like, he went down for the count. I was like, perfect. I'm like, hey guys, here's the name of the show. It's Down for the Count. Mm-hmm. And I love this podcast, man. It's awesome. Because before I started doing a podcast with these two, I never realized how many women don't do podcasts about wrestling. But there's so many female wrestling fans on social media. But it's just like, hey, do what we're doing. Get some friends, drink some beer, drink some wine, whatever, get some food,
Yeah.
and talk about wrestling. You don't have to be professional because we don't take ourselves seriously. But
Right.
No, no, we don't.
That's great. That's why I don't know if Nicole, have you told them about Wednesdays? I don't know if you guys are on Facebook, but what we started on Wednesdays. A lot of women seem to like it. It's called Women on Wednesday. Just let the women rant and talk wrestling for an hour to the group. It's a great thing. People seem to like what they did last week. People from different backgrounds, they didn't know each other before they started talking on there. Um, just a good thing to bring people together and talk wrestling. That's what I like to do. Now, I want to ask this question to Tiffany, since you cut down your podcast and edit them and put it up. What do you think, like, all three, what's your goal with the podcast? Like, what type of reach do you want to get to? Because I saw you had maybe 201 followers, 202 because I followed on Spotify. So what reach are you going for?
Oh, I don't even pay attention to.
I didn't even know we had that many people follow because I try not to look at it. Personally, my end game is I want us to be able to have fun with it, but start a conversation at the same time. I do want us to have a bigger reach, but I don't want us to lose what makes us us, if that makes sense. Um,
The authenticity.
yeah, I want to keep it like, if it makes sense, I want it to kind of be like off Broadway. Like, it's a great show on off Broadway, but it's not going to be on Broadway. It's not on the big grand scheme. It's still kind of that little place you go to, that hole in the wall bar, if that makes sense. That's where I want us to be. I think that's a happy medium for all of us, because we won't get in trouble for a lot of the shit that we say if we stay in that realm. I'd rather stay there than to be sued by somebody who gets in their feelings, because we say some fucked up shit on this show. We do.
You don't hold back.
That's how y'all be fighting up here in Indianapolis. Right there, I sent you.
Y'all hear me?
Huh? Oh, yeah, I know.
So you said you want to stay like, is it like the mom and pops podcast, but still have a reach?
Yeah, I want to be like below that surface, where we're not famous, but we're there. I don't want to be. That's just me personally. If it gets there, then we'll deal with it when it comes. But I want to be just that podcast that people are aware of, they listen to, but it's not this massive conglomerate thing. I don't want to be.
it's very DIY punk lifestyle thing that we're doing. We want to stay underground, because from what I see about any sport that gets covered, whether it's pro wrestling, football, hockey, whatever, podcasts start out with bite, but then somewhere along the line they just turn into like ass kickers, if that makes any sense. They go from just being like, yeah, whatever, fuck them, to like, oh, I don't know, that guy's probably one of the greatest people who ever laced up shoes, like blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait, what happened from like a year ago? Oh, you guys are getting paid, that's why. Okay. Now I get it. You get that paid sponsorship. Okay. I don't think we will never have to worry about that, because like the way we are in our personalities, I mean, we say it on the show all the time, we are equal opportunity shit talkers and offenders. No one's paying our bills, and even if they were, we'd still be talking shit. So, I like the fact that we're unpolished, and, like one of my friends listen, and they say, like, they're like, you guys just don't give a fuck. I said, why should we? No one, do you think the WWE really cares like what we think? We don't care what they think. So that's how that works for me, at least.
True.
And just to piggyback off of both of them, yeah, like and that's just like my goal is to like, I want us to be able to start a conversation and to like help provide a lane for other people like us, whether it be other women podcasts or other podcasts that feature people of color, and just so we can kind of have more of a safe space, if that makes sense, for the minorities of fans within our who love wrestling. Because when you think about it, well, because especially when I first started looking at like different podcasts and stuff, like it took me a minute to find like podcasts with like women and podcasts with like people of color, and then a lot of the women podcasts, like the two that I did found, like they literally had just started, but most of them like they've hit a year. Like Wrestling Wind Down is one of them, and those Wrestling Girls too, like we're all still very like, it's not like they've been here for like 2, 5, 10 years, like haven't been here that long. And it's great that it's starting, that we're helping contribute to that broadening, but it's still kind of sad to me at the same time. Like it's literally like 2020 and there's still only a handful of podcasts or even medias. And then even talking about, usually on our Instagram page, we usually try to, that's our most professional setting is our Instagram. So we take great care of providing facts that are as factual as possible from sources, or when there's like big stories, we try to make sure that we give people all of the correct information, because again, we don't have a lot of women and or black women who are in, or black people in general who are in wrestling media as a whole. Because you think about it, when you look into wrestling media, you think of the Ryan Satins, you think of Sean Ross Staff, even though I really like him, but at the same time, like we're not trying to, like, if we do blow up, like Tiff said, that's just something we got to deal with, but we're just trying to help create a culture of acceptance and broaden everyone's horizons, and keep the conversation going.
Keep the conversation going. How do you think that you're able to achieve that? Is there a way to achieve that? Because my real opinion, I tell people wrestling is still a good old boy sport. So
Yep.
if I brought my personal opinions and my personal thoughts and beliefs into wrestling when I watch it every day, I would have stopped watching in the 90s. So I have to learn how to separate that and wrestling. So how do you think we achieve that to include more minority and more women and everything in the wrestling conversation, the media?
We have to be invested and do it. In order for people, most of the time people, I'll make an example. The way that people got behind Kofi when Kofi won the WWE Championship, a lot of people still, even after he won it, they chastised him. Oh, he was the worst WWE champion. It took a lot for him to even get the title in the first place, but to see him with it can inspire an entire generation of other African American kids or people of color, period, who can dream and aspire to obtain that same brass ring. So the way I see it is, if we continue to do what we're doing, others will follow suit. And the way we go about it, yeah, we joke and we jest, but we do have occasions where we tackle stuff that is racial. Occasionally it's sexist topics. There's a episode on the podcast now where it's literally about one of the worst human beings in wrestling and about a girl who's missing. It's just all kinds of there's ways to do this with respect to the sport, but also to bring other people in. The only way that people are going to come in and understand that women are involved in wrestling, we enjoy it, and African American people, or rather people of color, are involved in wrestling, enjoy it, or rather want to do it, is we have to make the moves. We have to be the initiative. We have to start it. That's the only way.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Ladies, if we could, yeah, we at the 2 hour mark. If we could get your Instagram, Twitter, first thing Spotify, Down for the Count. They're also on Google Podcast, I believe. Down, DOWN, the number 4, the count. You'll see 3 ladies' faces on there: Tiffany, Nicole, and Alexis. Follow them, listen to them. I don't know how often they post. They will tell you that. So I'm giving it to them before we close out.
Down for the Count usually comes out twice a week. Occasionally we'll have a bonus episode. I cannot give you a set time as to when it will come out, because I try to edit it as often as I can and get it out as quickly as possible. Usually by Thursday, everything will be uploaded. So I would say by Thursday, you'll be able to listen to everything. Our socials is at D4TC_podcast. That's on Instagram. For our Twitter is at Down for the Count 19. It's all spelled out, I believe.
I think I just followed those like last night or earlier today.
Yeah, I followed you back.
The Twitter is very active because these two run the Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. They usually will live tweet AEW or Raw or SmackDown. Occasionally they'll do like NWA Power or MLW. We try to keep Instagram a little bit more like newsy. So occasionally we will post on Instagram. But yeah, everything's available. Our podcast comes out weekly. We are always available on Anchor and Spotify, like you mentioned. We're available on Google Podcasts. If you want it on another platform, we're working towards Apple Music. But I'm working towards it. I'm gonna figure it out.
I really want it on Apple Music. I downloaded Spotify only for you guys' podcast.
We appreciate it.
That's awesome. But if you want it on Apple and you don't want to have to use Spotify, you can use our RSS code. It's on our page for Anchor. You can pull it. Because I know a lot of people have iPhones. You guys listen to your podcast through Apple Music. You just have to download our RSS URL, and that will allow you to import it into Apple Music, and it will update regularly as if you were listening to it on Spotify or Anchor. So if that helps until I can get it to go through there automatically, you can do it that way.
Cool. Nicole, your socials for the people?
So Chip said all of our media, our actual media. I'll give out our Do you want me to give yours, Alexis, or no?
You don't have to give them on here. You can type them in the side for me, and I'll follow everybody. Just give them what y'all want to give. All my links are on the side also. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay.
I just was like kind of iffy about it because like a month ago we had a situation, and then come to find out someone was using my pictures on other social medias and trying to say that was them or using me for some reason. So like my whole social media accounts went into like lockdown. But everything's good now. So yeah, I gotta start posting on Instagram again anyway.
Yeah.
So
so we have Tiff's hers is Psych Design TV2. It's all one word, and 2 is TOO. I don't know why I couldn't spell that. I need to get it together. And then we have Alexis's, and hers is Alexis Nisma at 95. I never say that last name right, but it's fine. Alexis dot DESMALL 95. Also on Instagram, I'll give our Twitters in a second. My Instagram is is Nicole without the hoe.
I love her name.
I love
Hold
it.
up. Time out. That is you. Okay. I was like, where did this person come from, and why is their name Nicole without the hoe?
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
it's not slut shaming or anything. It's basically a pun because my name is Nicole, and I hate when people randomly put an H when they spell my name when I tell them that's not how you spell my fucking name. I was like, it's literally one of the most common names in the entire world. So this is where that came from.
Yeah, but it's also one of those names that people just throw extra vowels and stuff into it that don't really need to be thrown into.
Yeah.
That was me, Tiffany. I just followed you.
Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
it's Nicole without the hoe, all one word, and it's HO, no E, and an underscore mark. All on Instagram. What is our Twitters? So I don't remember anybody's Twitter. Why can't I pull up
Mine is
Twitter?
the same. Mine
Same,
is the
same as
same.
mine.
Okay, theirs are the same. I think mine's is a little bit cleaner. Yes. So my Twitter is Nicole Maria underscore 89. So
All right. So that's where you can find me. You know, you can always find me on Instagram. We LUV Wrestling. Find me on Facebook at the same thing. Go look for that page. And my Twitter is King Trey to the D. I do want to thank Down for the Count for joining me, talking wrestling for 2 hours, learning about them. Like I said, listen to their podcast, talk to them, interact with them.